Hello and welcome to Georgia Bulldogs Live here on the Georgia Voice of College Football. I am your host, Matt Green. Unfortunately, my co-host is not here tonight, Bo Underwood. He made the journey out to Starkville to see the Dogs take on the other Bulldogs from the SEC, and Georgia got the victory. This is our post-game instant reaction show, so I appreciate everyone who's watching live, everyone who's tuning in. It was a nice, easy game for the Bulldogs for once this season. So there's the stats on the game. Georgia, like I said, Georgia 41, Mississippi State 21. This Georgia offense, it just looked really nice today. 567 yards you see there compared to 322 for Mississippi State. 303 yards on the ground for the Bulldogs. This team just has so much more of an identity than Georgia did a year ago. It's like every game a year ago for Georgia was such a battle, but and this year it's been more of the same, but it's like who you are going into the battle. It's like you had the games where the defense was giving up a bunch and Carson Beck had to lead Georgia, and there were drops and everything. And then you had the games like Texas where Carson Beck threw like 3 interceptions and the offense couldn't do hardly anything, but the defense was dominant. It's like you almost got a different team in every big game. I guess it was really just Texas. Texas was the only team that really experienced Georgia's elite defense a year ago. A lot of other teams seem to have their way with the Dogs at times, but this team, I feel like what you're getting with this team, and I think there's something to be said for that. I think there's this narrative about Georgia, like they're this kind of unpredictable team, and it's like, oh, whenever they flip the switch, they capable of beating anybody. But I just think the way this team's being talked about this year is just kind of incorrectly. Like it's not Reggie Bush, Matt Leinart, USC or something. It's not like an Urban Meyer, Florida, or even an Urban Meyer, Ohio State team that like would play with their food at times, like that sort of thing. And then when it really matters, they're elite and they turn it on. Like, I'm just not sure this team is elite this year, and that's fine. You know what I mean? Like, I think we're used to Georgia being, one of having the elite players in the country. I'm not saying there's a lot of teams that are more talented than Georgia, but you look at this team right now, and I don't want to sound like a broken record because I know I've said things like this in the past, but you look at this team right now, there's not a lot of guys that are going to get picked first round in the 2026 draft. Like, they have a lot of good players, but it's not like there's some, like, they're just insanely more talented than their opponents this year. I think they're just finding ways to win most games. And this was another game that, you just saw that for once. I will say that it was we on cruise control in the second half. So I think we all, just as Georgia Bulldogs fans, just have to get used to teams are going to score on Georgia on their first drive of the game. That's just who we are now. 14 plays, 75 yards. Mississippi State goes down and scores on their opening possession. And then Georgia makes adjustments. So it's just, that's what this team seems to do every single week. But after that first one, Mississippi State was held scoreless for the rest of the first half, and they really didn't score again until I feel like the game was over. So after Georgia went up 31-7, they went 38-7, and then Mississippi State got their second touchdown of the game and late in the third quarter. But yeah, it was or is it in the fourth quarter? Yeah, it was in the third quarter that Mississippi State scored their second touchdown of the game. But yeah, it was I feel like it was a good performance all around. Like, I think this Georgia offense and Mike Bobo just doesn't get enough credit for just how creative they are. Like Zachariah Branch, enjoy him, folks. Zachariah Branch 2025 has been a lot of fun, and I'm hoping this team can go all the way. But Zachariah Branch is not going to be on this team next year. This guy is just so good. He is the Mecole Hardman, Isaiah McKenzie hybrid. He's just so good, and he just makes this Georgia offense go. And in today's game, he had 8 for 68 for a touchdown. But it's just what he does to the rest of the offense. Just when he's used as a decoy, just it's amazing how he opens up this Georgia offense. But Yeah, I can't say enough about the offense, really. With Branch, Noah Thomas having his best game as a Georgia Bulldog, 3 for 78, including that 64-yard touchdown. Oscar Delp and Lawson Lucky, this tight end group is just so good. Like whether it's blocking, whether it's catching the ball, like Oscar Delp with a touchdown in this one. Elias Williams looked really good, going up and getting the true freshman. Like I think Kirby Smart has talked about Lawson Lucky's injury, which looked bad, but it sounds like he wanted to go back in the game, so I think he should be good. Got rocked on that one, but it's good to hear that. I think the same thing about Drew Bobo. I think he was also trying to go back in the game, but they just decided to hold him out. So I think both those guys are good to go. So that's good. Unfortunate that the fumble you had with Dylan Bell that was reviewed. I honestly felt like he was down, but maybe not obvious enough to overturn the call in the field. But then Georgia got the fumble right back with Blake Shapen. And who was that forced the fumble? Was it Quintavious Johnson, I believe, that forced the fumble? He had a couple tackles for loss and a half sack in this game. Georgia with 3 sacks on the game. I think that's definitely something that excited Georgia fans. Not to be Debbie Downer here, but the 3 sacks are great. To see Georgia finally getting pressure on the quarterback was definitely a positive I took out of this game. But it seems to only be CJ Allen or Raylan Wilson. Like Georgia's having to bring pressure from the linebackers in order to get pressure on the quarterback. So yeah, it worked today, but you're obviously opening yourself up when you have to blitz your linebackers. So but CJ Allen and Raylan Wilson, I think, are the 2 best defensive players on this team, and they definitely made some plays in the backfield today. KJ Bolden actually led Georgia with 10 tackles today, but yeah, I think and he was the one that recovered that fumble as well. So Nate Frazier. Shout out to Nate Frazier, 12 for 181 in this game, including the 59-yard touchdown. Gunner had 6 for 31 on the ground, and then Chauncey Bowen 7 for 28 and a touchdown as well. 303 yards on 44 carries. What is the math on that? 6.9 yards a carry for the Bulldogs. Like it was a dominant running performance. Like Georgia averaged 6.9 against Alabama earlier in the year. That's their best yards per carry total. That's the best total, the best rushing performance period. 227 Georgia ran for against Alabama. They ran for 303 in today's game, and that was really my key to the game. Also, like looking at what Mississippi State has given up this year, they gave up. Let me see. They gave up 251 to Arizona State in a game they won. They gave up 299 on the ground to Texas A&M, a game they lost. They gave up 239 to Arkansas on the ground in a game they won. 172 they gave up to Florida. So this team has just been getting gashed all year on the ground. So to see Georgia go for 303, like that's definitely going to bring the average up. Like in Power 4 competition, they're giving up now 209 yards a game on the ground. So Georgia, what was that before? Yeah, they came in giving up 194. So Georgia going for 303 puts that at 209 a game. Mississippi State's allowing on the ground. But then looking on the flip side for Mississippi State, rushing for 149. Honestly, one of the bigger running performances I think anyone's had against Georgia, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, that is the highest rushing total that Georgia's allowed this season, 149 yards. The previous was at Auburn. They gave up 140, but still just 3.5 yards a carry. That's not anything impressive for what Georgia's allowed this season. So multiple teams have had over 3.5 yards a carry. So, 41-21. I think this is the performance this team needed. Just with, how many games in a row are we going off of now with Alabama, Ole Miss, Florida? Like a lot of these have been a lot of high stress games. Obviously, Bama and Tennessee early in the season as well. There's just been a lot of stressful 4-quarter games for this team so far this year. So it's really good to see this team, just come on out there, take care of business, and and just cruise in the second half. To see, I think what I said in the Kentucky game, one of my keys to victory against Kentucky was, or I guess one of the biggest things I wanted to see against the number one thing I should say that I wanted to see against Kentucky. I didn't even say it for this game because I think I respected Mississippi State more than I did Kentucky. But I said I wanted to see Ryan Puglisi against the Wildcats earlier this season because we'd had those rough, not rough game. I mean, we played good competition, but just those heart wrenching games down to the end. I wanted to see Ryan Puglisi, the victory cigar, and so I wasn't even really expecting that. I was expecting Mississippi State to give Georgia a 4-quarter game. I did think they would cover, just kind of same way I thought Georgia would cover last week, which, Gunner, they essentially did. I think people might talk about Georgia a little differently if Georgia wins that 31-20 and Gunner just runs that in at the end. It's not another one-score win. You kind of pulled away late, dominated the game in the second half, whatever the narrative would be. That's kind of what I thought was going to happen in this game. Like it would be a 4-quarter game that Georgia might win by 2 touchdowns. But no, this was over by the first drive of the second half. And also I think it needs to be stated about Kirby Smart. I think there's just a narrative about Kirby Smart and that, he's a recruiter and he's not the best in-game coach. Like that was an absolute masterclass that Kirby Smart and Mike Bobo put on late in the second quarter of this game. Like to be sitting on a 4th and 4, run the offense out there when you already had the punt unit out, and then force Mississippi State into the timeout, which I guess Mississippi State's just rattled in that situation because if I was looking at the clock and I think there was like 14, 15 seconds left when Georgia's running the whole offense on the field. I don't think there's an exact amount of time that you have to give the defense to sub. It's like a reasonable amount of time. It says something like that, I think, in the rule book. Like a reasonable amount of time for the defense to sub. Like you could have easily kind of trotted some guys on, trotted some off, and taken that time and then force a penalty. And then Georgia would be happy to just move it back 5 yards, get the delay of game, and punt it away. But Mississippi State seemed rattled. Jeff Lebby seemed rattled in that situation. He called the timeout. They couldn't get the subs right. I think they only had 10 men on the field. And then you bring out the punt unit and do the exact same thing again. And then I think in that situation, again, Georgia's perfectly happy with delay of game, push them back 5 yards, punt it away, up 17-7 going into the half. Hopefully you get a stop with like a minute and a half left in the first half. And it's 17-7. Then the fact that Mississippi State jumps off sides, then that gives Georgia a first down at what? Like the what would that be? So let me see here. That was at like the 45. So they're sitting at 3rd and 2. I'm looking at this wrong, but it's not important right now. But anyway, that's I'm looking at the wrong drive. So that's why I'm confused. So yeah, you're sitting there at 3rd and 3. 4th and 3, you get the first down at the 30, now to the 33-yard line. So then you have 33-yard line, and then you end up scoring a touchdown before the half. So just an excellent manipulation of the game, essentially, by Kirby Smart and Mike Bobo before the half. But yeah, I mean, at some point, I think the fans are gonna understand like how good of a play caller Mike Bobo is because like just the offense that this Georgia team runs, it's just such a creative offense. Like the touchdown that Oscar Delp scored, where we're these tight ends, this team, these receivers and these tight ends just block so well that you just respect all of these guys as blockers. And then all of a sudden they're running out for a route and it's a touchdown. Like I don't know how many times Georgia essentially ran some version of either faking it to the running back or using Zachariah Branch as a decoy and then throwing it to someone who looked like it was going to be a blocker and leaked out. Like it's such a fun offense to watch, especially when it's working. 567 yards of offense. Like that's Georgia's best performance of the season. They put up 510 against Ole Miss, 502 at Tennessee. Also, we're talking about Georgia's third 500-yard offensive performance against Power 4 competition this year. Like I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I'd be willing to bet there's not another team in the SEC that has 3 500-yard performances in conference play this year. And I don't know that I don't know that for a fact. I'll have to fact check myself on that. But yeah, this Georgia offense I don't think gets enough credit for how good they've been this year. And another reason why I'm salty about Gunner not running um that touchdown against Florida at the end of the game. So a 31-point performance against Florida looks a lot better than 24. And then it also would have been another 30-point performance. I mean, Georgia's now got 3 40-point performances in conference play this year with Tennessee, Ole Miss, and Mississippi State. Also 35 versus Kentucky, and the other 3 in the 20s against Auburn, Alabama, and Florida. But yeah, I think this offense has just been really good this year. The defense, one of the more encouraging defensive performances I thought today, even though I did say this was the most rushing yards they've given up in a game. Just the fact that they got pressure on the quarterback. Gabe Harris is another one. He didn't get the sack because Blake Shapen was able to get that ball away. But I mean, that hit on Blake Shapen knocked him out of the game. That's just like that's something you haven't experienced as a Georgia fan this year because they're not knocking any quarterbacks out of the games because they're not hitting any quarterbacks regularly enough. So I think that was just another encouraging sign for Georgia in this game. But yeah, this is Mississippi State has been a really good team this year. Like this is why I didn't necessarily expect a blowout. Like this team has been respectable against everyone they've played. But 567 yards, like I said, that's the biggest total they've allowed all season. The only other one was to the third ranked team in the country, Texas A&M. They gave it 479, so nearly 100 yards more Georgia had in this game than they allowed against Texas A&M. So and then 299 they allowed against A&M and 303 for Georgia. So also they haven't had a game where they gave up where they allowed 6 yards a carry on the ground. So Georgia was 6.9, almost 7 yards a carry essentially. So that's another good aspect of this game, of this performance. But also a lot of similarities with the Texas A&M game. The only other time they really got blown out, they only had 142 passing yards in that game, 219 yards total. I had 173 passing yards in this game and 322 total. So 322 is the second fewest Mississippi State has had in conference play this year. So all in all, I would say the biggest negative, I would say really the only negative I can kind of find from this performance for Georgia was still third down. I think third down still got to get better. They allowed Mississippi State to go 8 for 16 on third down. Granted, I don't know how much of that it was like third and fourth quarter when the game was kind of already decided. I felt like Georgia was getting off the field early, like when it mattered, like to build that 38-7 lead. But yeah, that's probably something you still need to work on. So all in all, I think this is definitely the performance you wanted from Georgia. I think, not to be like a homer Georgia fan or anything, but I think there's a lot of people that said there was some upset alert around this one, and the 9.5 spread was too high. Mississippi State was going to give them a 4-quarter game, myself included. But will those people that said that still give Georgia credit for a good win on the road against a quality SEC team? I don't know. It feels like one of those things. Oh, watch out for the upset. And then when well, yeah, obviously. Well, and then you blow out Mississippi State. Yeah, you're supposed to blow out Mississippi State. Yeah, everyone knew that was going to happen. So I don't know. That could be the narrative around this one. But maybe that's just me being a salty Georgia fan. But I think it was the performance we wanted to see from this team because I don't think that it was a trap game truly because I think Georgia respected going on the road in Starkville, but I think nationally there was kind of that narrative of, oh, Georgia's got Texas on the road. Texas sitting here on a bye. They're getting ready for that Georgia game. Georgia might be looking ahead. Big time game in Sanford Stadium next week. I wonder if game day is going to be there. I haven't looked at the slate for next week for Georgia, Texas. Georgia's already hosted game day once, right? If I'm not mistaken, was Alabama, was that game day? No, that was Oregon, Penn State was that same week. So Ole Miss was the game that was game day this year. So Maybe Georgia hosts it again. I'm not sure. Looking at next week's slate, Oklahoma at Alabama could be a good one. Iowa, USC, I guess if you're trying to get creative. But yeah, that's Georgia, Texas is definitely a candidate to be game day next week. So I'm not sure. I don't know if they've announced college game day for next week, or anything, or if anyone even cares about it. But that would be cool. It's always cool when college game day is in Athens. And so and I think Kirby Smart, I believe, is 8-0 when game day is in Athens. So obviously that's a positive. So big time win for the Dogs, 41-21. So I think I'm sure we're gonna come to you with some more reaction about this game, as well as some Texas talk later this week. But let's see. Other than the other games going around, obviously we're still here, middle of the day, where there's a lot of games happening. Indiana barely escaped the upset versus Penn State. One of the catches of the year. I don't know how that dude came down with that foot in bounds. I thought for sure he was going out of the back of the end zone, but found a way, and Indiana escaped Happy Valley. That would have been a monster upset if Penn State could have gotten that done. But yeah, Texas Tech blowing out BYU when this week's college game day site. But yeah, we'll see how these other SEC games shake out. A&M got a lead in the third quarter on Missouri. Auburn up on Vanderbilt, and Oregon and Iowa in a close one. So that's what I'll be doing for the rest of the day. But I appreciate everyone who's tuning in live. My co-host Bo Underwood will be back with me when we go live on Monday, and we'll also get the Texas Longhorns college football live, or college football live, voice of college football, I should say. They are going to be joining, and we'll be joining them as well this week to preview Georgia, Texas next week. So excited about Georgia, Texas. I guess my early thoughts on Georgia, Texas are I'm a little concerned. I think Texas is a team that is playing for their season. They have to win out. I think the remaining games to get to the college football playoff. But I think it's still possible. I think Texas winning out is actually the scenario where the SEC could get 5 teams, because if you have A&M, Georgia, Alabama, and Ole Miss all win out, obviously they can't all win out, but then A&M and Georgia only lose to Texas, and A&M's a 1-loss team, Georgia's a 2-loss team, and Texas jumps in there with 2 losses. I think that's how the SEC gets 5 teams. Those teams probably all 5 be ranked like top 8 or so in the rankings. So, but yeah, we have a lot of time to talk about Arch Manning and the Texas Longhorns coming to Athens next week. But as for today, Georgia getting the win over Mississippi State, 41-21. I appreciate everyone who's tuning in live. Please like, share, subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff, and we'll come to you live again on Monday at 7:00. So thanks for joining, and as always, go Dogs.
College football is even more exciting when you've got some action on the line, and the games are even better when you're cashing in. And the Voice of College Football is the place to be to get the greatest value. Start with my picks. 75% against the money line, 58% against the spread, and I've got a 40-plus year track record. 11-0 in the college football playoff for me last year against the money line, 8-3 against the spread. And I'm just the warm-up act. Steve Merrill of Wager Talk is our ace in the hole, show stopper. 7 years with the Voice of College Football, over 30 years in the industry. Steve gives us analysis on all the big games, but you can't miss Steve's weekly under-the-radar pick. 28-12 against the spread the last 3 years. You also get picks from some of our top analysts here at the Voice of College Football, including Corey Bratta, Matt Zemek, and Steve Dace. Check out those numbers. Become a YouTube or Patreon member for just $99 per month. Go to the main channel on YouTube, click join, and then select the betting tier. Do the same thing on Patreon. Make 2025 a winner now.